Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. So, I want to do a reading and also talk about this strange limbo feeling that a lot of us are in right now. And so, for me personally, there's a lot that's coming into my life at this time, things that have been kind of in the background or in motion for the last like several months or several years or even decades in some instances, where things are just like landing now. And it's uncanny how, it's just kind of like one after another after another after another, where landing in the physical, very physical things. And it's like, and tripling out, there's more this week that's happening, and then the next week, and then the next week. So I can kind of see the trajectory. So a lot to feel like steady and stable and sort of excited about. And, it's nice to know what's coming, and it's nice that things that you've wanted are happening. And yet at the same time, I have this real sort of like limbo feeling, and like feeling kind of lost, and like I'll just kind of walk. Sometimes I'll walk. I was doing this before I decided to do this reading. I'll like kind of walk around from room to room and be like, what was I gonna do? Like, what was I gonna do? Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? And then I just like sat down on the couch and just kind of like sat there and just like stared off into space, and then it was like, I know I'm not the only one feeling this, I know I'm not, and I've talked with other people as well. And so it's just kind of this limbo period. And so it's interesting because it reminds me very much of how the energy sessions that I do go. And so, I've been doing this for 15 years, and in the beginning I did, trainings and stuff like that, but over the years, it's like it showed itself to me. So I learned a lot about energy and how energy moves and what happens after it moves. And, it's just like, and, maybe not everybody sees what I'm saying, but it's like unique to me, like my relationship to the energy and how I'm like positioned here to like work with it, right? So it just revealed itself to me. And then I started maneuvering with it, as I went along, right? As I went along. But what I'm seeing in there can be applied to just life in general. So it's always like a clearing will happen. And again, this isn't me like, okay, I have a system and I have a structure and, and I follow my, it's like, it just happens, and it happens over and over again. And you see the same patterns, and then the patterns will start to change. You can track like evolution and where the collective's at, because you'll start seeing something new, and I often talk about this because it's how I get a lot of information. Okay. But so, but just watching the energy and letting it lead. So it's not me, conjuring or, like expecting, but I see the same things over and over again. So it's the clearing. So wherever there's a distortion in the energy field, or a loop or a pattern, or a strange pattern where things aren't flowing in alignment, then it will start to unravel and leave and clear, and you can feel it clear out of the body, or I can feel it clear out of the body. Then what happens is there's this whole reconfiguration between the polarities in the body, the left side of the body and the right side of the body, our feminine and our masculine, our intuitive spiritual, our tuned in, and our action based, so there will always be this reconfiguration which can then create another clearing. You go a deeper level, because it's like something clears, and then they're like, oh, the energy's not running in that, distorted way. So it has to find a new way to run, it has to find a new configuration. And so when it's finding that new configuration, then it can be like, wait, this needs to go too. And of course, this is all a reflection of the work that somebody's done in their consciousness, because energy and patterns can't clear unless they have a light shown on them, the light and the dark. So that's the person's consciousness. So it's just a reflection and a manifestation of where people are at in their relationship with themselves. Okay. But so if they've done a lot, then, a lot can clear as it's reconfiguring. So whatever level it stops at, that reconfiguration is it's a new platform. So there's been a lot in the readings too coming up about the structure and the template and the base, where it's like we're creating a new template and a new base. Actually, it's the new earth template, because we're clearing out the density, we're clearing out the distortions, we're clearing out the old conditioning from our bodies, from our energy fields, from our psyches, our consciousness, but like clearing it through the body. The body is literally creating a new structure to hold these higher frequencies. And then the higher frequencies present as things in our lives, like, finally the end of that relationship, or finally, the kids coming to live back home with you, or whatever it is, in your circumstance, of things that are, or finally this is coming in, or I'm finally meeting my soul tribe, or, whatever it is. That's the representation of that light, of that new earth energy, where things are aligned, so, but, it's like preparing our energetic field to receive them. And I think that's kind of like the limbo spot, because it's really easy to see what's leaving. What's leaving, because you feel it and you see it, and you have the conflict, in the outer world. It's all in the outer stage, and it can take up the view, it takes up the whole screen. It can take up the whole screen. Of course, you have your other things, the things that are coming in, the things you're excited about. And so those two are both visible, but the behind the scenes polarity rebalancing is what we're not aware of, because we can't see it, but it's happening. And so I was seeing that in the readings as well, where it was like, oh, so I was learning again, every time I read for somebody, I learn, because it's just this energy communicating, coming through, where as you're clearing and as you're feeling like your whole life is crumbling, and yet you have this, whether it's coming into your field or not, you have the knowing and the connection to that higher timeline that you've cultivated. Those that resonate with these readings, you've cultivated, you've had that, for a long time. It's just been slowly chiseling away at what's been in the way of that, but yeah, that sort of like strange. So Erme, my daughter, she had an analogy, because I was talking about this template, and she's like, well, it's almost like all of a sudden there's a table in the room, where there wasn't a table before. There's a table, and we might not see the table. Again, we might not be aware of this new structure, but let's just say there's like this invisible table that we can't see. And so it's like the plates are being set, the silverware is being set, the napkins, the glasses, and she's like, but we're not invited to the table until the food is on the table. And so that I thought that was a good analogy as well, where it kind of feels like that, like there's all these things happening in there, because like for me, and I keep looking over here, because we built a catio in the backyard, and my daughter's bringing her cats up from her dad's house. I've mentioned this before, but in case you're new, and so she doesn't have to go down into Columbus, into her old trauma, and she can like develop more of a life here. And she's starting piano lessons this week, and there's just like that's like one thing that's going on in terms of things landing, okay? But anyway, it's like, so the things that are kind of like off in the distance or off on the periphery while you're still doing this kind of like clearing, rearranging work, all those things are being put in place, but you can still feel, like I was saying to a friend today, like there's all this amazing stuff happening in my life, all this fruition, and yet I don't feel connected to it yet. And it's like it's not complete yet. There are like so many pieces that they're all coming in, they're all being put on the table, but it's not until they're all there that I can like sit down and enjoy my meal, So part of the limbo is that things are still in process, but part of it is that there's this whole reconstruction, reconfiguring, restructuring, rebalancing going on that creates the framework, the platform, the table to hold all the things that we're receiving, our buffet, our higher timeline buffet. And of course it's a process. And again, it's like the energy work. When you clear something and things start to rebalance, then another layer can go, and it's just like this kind of like ongoing movement. But it really does feel like there's, so the other thing that I was going to say, I'm kind of interrupting myself, but so we're having this rebalancing always, within ourselves, but especially right now, because there's been like such a huge level clearing through the Lion's Gate, and of course through that eclipse in April. It's just been like a lot of really tough initiations, a lot of really since the beginning of the year, all the X flares we've had since the beginning of this year. I mean, it's like, I've said this before, but I think we had one X flare in 2021. This year, since the beginning of this year, I think we're up to like 35, at least 35, 40. So, really pushing the density out, activating us again, rebalancing and activating, creating that new structure in our bodies. So a lot has been going on. And of course we know, the November time period being like really crucial. So there's a lot, again, the polarities in the world as well. So that's what I was going to say. It's like, as we're balancing the polarities within our bodies, there's fractals of that go out. So, staying, closer to the next level in our relationships with our community or with our partners. I know there are a lot of people, so between the masculine and the feminine, so a lot of people with relationships where it's the feminine partner, whether you're a man or a woman, the one holding the most feminine energy, that's kind of, because again, it's like our spiritual intuitive side leads. She gets the connection to the higher information, the higher part of us, the higher self that already knows the game plan. We'll just like trickle in these little things in the exact right time. We hear them, or the masculine in us takes action on them, but that's also going out into our relationships where, a lot of the feminines are no longer, it's not just that they're no longer willing, it's like time is up. It's like the divine node point for the feminine energy within us to be really loud and clear, where we have to take action on what we're hearing. And the way that translates into our relationships is like no longer settling for distorted behavior, distorted halfway. It's like you see the vision, you see where your soul is meant to go the whole way, and you're taking those actions, and you're in alignment in that way. And if you're partnered or paired up, or collaborating with someone that's more in that sort of distorted energy, it's like you just can't do it anymore. You're walking away, or you're speaking up and you're inviting them. I'm speaking through my alignment, through my wisdom. I'm bringing forth something higher here, and you can either match me and step into it and allow yourself to be led by that divine feminine energy that we all have. You can spark yours and you can join me, or we're going to have to part ways. So a lot of people doing that right now, a lot of people, so many of the readings. And so and down at the shop, and sessions and all this. And so but yeah, but what's interesting, so just like the reconfiguration in the sessions where the polarity, the balance between the masculine and the feminine within us come into right relationship, where we hear the call and we take action. They're not, and that's what all the distortions are about. The division of the polarities, the division between the polarities, the masculine and the feminine, spirit and matter, left and right, whatever it is. That's always what the distortions are. And so when they clear, they can come back together. They can come back together. And so if that's happening within us, that's happening within our relationships, that's happening within our world. But at the same time, there's kick up, that person that you're like, hey, I'm about this and only about this. And if you want to join me, then great. And if not, then they might, and that can happen in the world as well, right? So what I was saying about November and coming up on this like crucial time, and the polarities and the division and, the tactics and the antics and the agendas and, all this, the hijacks, all of it being really, really kicked up right now. Okay. But again, it's like stuff, if we come back to the way the energy is showing itself, right? At least for me, in these sessions and over 15 years, it's like there's a clearing, there's a rebalancing, there's a new structure being formed, and as that new structure is being formed, the new things can come in because it has a stable platform, and it's just what's going on. So it can look really messy, and we can be again distracted into one part of the process without without seeing the whole thing. So anyway, I felt really guided and moved because it kind of came into me like a download of like understanding for myself. And I thought, I got to share this, because I think it's helpful. It's helpful to me. Maybe it's helpful to some of you as well, just seeing kind of the behind the scenes movement that's going on. And remembering that big picture, as we're moving through our own process, as we're moving through our process with individuals. And so for me, with the catio and other things that I've been doing around the house, I've been having these conflicts with the men that have been helping me. And I was like, oh, okay. I was talking about this last time, like, oh, I'm supposed to speak up. So there was another one since that reading where the guy that was helping me, I told him, the like order of the materials that I wanted them on the catio for the roofing. And I told him 3 different times, one of them in writing. And well, of course, it's Mercury retrograde, but he did them backwards. And then he got mad at me when I was like, well, I don't want it like that, and there were reasons why I don't want it like that. Like I want the main light right here over the room where I do sessions in. And I want this covered because we have their little cat house and stuff like that. And so he got mad. And I had to just kind of like hold steady, because it's like, the pattern is like, oh, the masculine ego, the distorted masculine ego that like, well, I know that you told me that you wanted it like this. And I'm like, why would I tell you that? That's not how I want it. Why would I tell you what I don't want? I know exactly what I want and exactly why I want it. I was really sweet about it, but anyway, and he got mad and got off the phone mad. And then I was just like, no, I'm not going to feel like a bad little girl, like a bad girl that did a wrong thing, those old patterns, I just like stood in my happy space. And I was just like, he'll work through it, he'll work through it. And I prayed and I just for highest and best. And I just like stayed higher aligned. And the next day he came, he was in a really good mood. He was with, and I just like left him alone until they did all the like fixing up of the things that were like done in a way that I didn't say I wanted him. And then there was like this synchronicity where we like came together at the exact moment, and there was just like this, anyway, it was just flowed. It just absolutely flowed, and it was so beautiful. And I felt like I just like pushed this pattern out. So rather than seeing it as like, oh my God, like conflict, it was like, oh, this is a divine play. So he probably had some like, what's funny is before he started working, I kept having this flash of like, like the wife that like was disappointed and like he could never do anything right. And I think I was picking up on like a pattern, maybe whether it was like with his mom or like his wife or something, or women in general. And I was like, oh fuck, am I gonna play this out with him, you know? But I just like prayed for highest healing for everyone, like whatever patterns we need to heal, like every single instance, even the guy building the catio can be healing and unraveling, and it's all about coming home to our alignment, you know? So just looking at it all like that instead of like an inconvenience, or the guy that didn't pay me, you know, I got to speak up and he got to like have a consequence, or, you know, whatever it was. And that was the other guy in the other video I was talking about. But yeah, and like just seeing the patterns over and over again. And so anyway, just all the unraveling and knowing that it's all about this awakening. It's all about our alignment and our return home. So I think I said everything that I wanted to say. I think I shared that down pretty well. So I'm going to go into cards and see what we get. So, all right. So the overall energy for where we're at right now, what wants to come through in this moment, is Starfish Spirit, open to infinite possibilities. Yes, it's like that platform that's just like, you know, that is the platform. You know, that's the platform, that's the table. And it's just like arms wide open where you're just saying yes, you know, you're saying yes to all that's coming in. You're knowing that this platform is being built. You know, you're seeing that higher picture. You're allowing the process and the unraveling to happen without taking it personal or making it about you or beating yourself up or beating anybody else up. That's what we were talking about last time. You know, the divine players for everybody's unraveling. So, but it's really about receiving our birthright. Our birthright, which naturally unfolds and flows to us when we can clear out the distortions and the programs and the hijacks that are in the way of the truth of reality. But everything that's there, that's just waiting. So let's get some more. Let's go into the tarot. It's kind of dark in here, but it doesn't look dark in the video. It's really weird. Okay, but I'm glad. All right, let's see. That's kind of funny. It's really dark in here, but it doesn't look dark in the video. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like sometimes it can feel really dark, like even that kind of lost space where you're like, wait, is something wrong? Should I be concerned? Like, why am I feeling this way? And it's like, no, you know, it just looks dark right now, but it's really actually not, because, and I'm getting chills because this is coming in for us. And again, I don't mean to sound Pollyanna, because it's not like, oh, everything's great and, you know, let's spiritual bypass. It's like, no, like we're in the mud and blood, and we've had those initiations, and we've had those losses, and we've, you know, developed and learned and are developing and learning the mastery to see the big, and that's what I'm talking about, that mastery to see the bigger picture through the trials and through the initiations and through the clearings. And yeah, I don't know if I finished, oh, that's funny. I was going to say, I don't know if I finished the thought about the balancing of the masculine and the feminine energies in our world and in ourselves and in our relationships. So the next card that comes out is the Justice card, which is a card of balance. And so, you know, it's like, I do feel that because that divine feminine energy in all of us is, as we clear more and more and more, like I was saying, like with all the X flares and these portals that eclipse, you know, in April, which, wow, knocked so much trauma and discord, you know, up for me and my family, but loosened everything up. And then the Lion's Gate, you know, that was right when in my hologram we were doing the parasite cleanse, and like everything was just like, you know, leaving and all that. Okay, so, but anyway, now things kind of coming into this sort of like equal balance. And so it feels like in the world, you know, there's a lot between the masculine and the feminine, where again, that divine feminine energy is getting really loud because of the clearings that we've done, where we're able to hear and we're able to take action. And that is the true balance of the masculine and the feminine energy. You hear and you take action, and you support yourself through the inevitable clearings that happen. Again, you know, as you come into balance and as you come into alignment, it allows for deeper and deeper levels of clearing. And so, sorry. Yeah. And so, yeah. And so, hold on, let me gather myself. I got distracted by that. It was like the world just spun. Yeah. So as the divine feminine energy is getting louder, you know, she's taking the lead. You know, that part of us is taking the lead, but also taking the lead in the world. And so, you know, when the divine feminine energy is in her power and she's leading and she's speaking from that goddess speak of alignment, where it's like you can't argue with that. Like when she's convicted, when her inner masculine, whether you're a man or a woman, when your inner masculine is listening and taking action on your inner feminine, and they're together, there's a transmission in that. That's the God code. Like when you're you're in that space, nobody can fuck with you, you know, nobody can confuse you, nobody can do their gaslighting or their spins, nobody can knock you off. It's like you're with yourself. That's a solid God fractal, and that's what changes things, you know. So that other person or that system or that entity or whatever it is, it can't dance. It can't dance with you in a distorted way, because you're with yourself. You know, your polarities are together. And so that happening within different individuals, and then, you know, it's like an activation, you know, it's like dominoes, you know, where it's happening here and it's happening there and it's happening here and it's happening there. That type of configuration is sparking on, and it's changing the energetic signature, because when that happens within ourselves, again, the template, right? The template, the platform that we're standing on changes. So we're not having a point of attraction that's full of division or discord or, you know, like strange things where you have this going on, so now you have to have the opposite of that to come and help you correct that, you know, and then you got to have that. It's like when you're like this, you're attracting from that state of balance, you're attracting goodness. So the more and more people doing that, the more we're all changing our individual holograms, we're changing our communities, we're changing the world, you know. So, but definitely something going on between the masculine and the feminine collectives right now, because of the strength and alignment and power and clarity of the divine feminine energy within all of us. It's just a given when she is clear that the masculine comes to support her. But if she's distorted, or if she's blaming, you know, like me with a guy, if I would have played out the like judgmental mom or wife or whatever it was, and little so-and-so can't get it right, you know, we would have just played out our distortion. But instead I was just like, nope, I'm staying here, and I'm gonna walk through this potential landmine, you know, and just hold that higher frequency, because again, it's like structured water, and it just brings things into balance. It brings things into alignment, you know. And so the more of us that can hold steady in that configuration of balance, because it is what's going on. It is what's going on. It's going on within us. It's going on within our relationships. It's going on within the world. And so again, seeing that bigger picture and like opening up for all of the inevitable consequences, reaction, you know, from that. It's cosmic law. It's just cosmic law that when enough individuals are functioning from a state of balance, again, there's justice, you know, there's justice, because the only reason that there's our birthright and the divine cosmic law is not playing out is because of all the distortions. So again, as we clear that, things can flesh out in the way that they do. It's like energy work, you know, when the distortions clear, the energy flows in its natural way, and then it comes into balance, and then that which has been hanging in the field can integrate down into the body, where it can be a transmitter in the actual energy field of that person, where they can then attract from that, you know what I mean? It all unravels, whether it's in an individual body or in our communities or in the world. It's just how it goes. So yeah, beautiful. So temperance. So the temperance card is about, again, I keep bumping that. I'm not going to let it throw me off this time. I went the wrong way. I like it like this. I like the plant. I like the visual. I'm aware of the visuals. Okay, so all those fragmented parts, all those distortions, all those separation consciousness coming back into unity, back into wholeness. That's what the temperance card is about, you know, like just the integration of the pieces coming back into wholeness. So that's amazing. We've got two major arcanas. So that's really validating the energy that I've been feeling, and what I was talking about, where it, you know, it's like with the clearing, there's this whole new thing coming in, you know, so very much seems to be the energy, not just, and collectively, you know, where there's, there is a holding going on. That is what this is about, and I feel like we're further along in this than we've ever been. You know, again, we have a lot of assistance, but right now in particular, something about right now, I don't know, I haven't been following the astrology. I don't know what's going on. Well, actually, my ex-husband, he is a Vedic astrologer, so he was talking to me today about some Mars thing where everybody has a choice. There's like this choice point. It hits everybody's charts differently. So there's like this choice that we're making. I don't know. And he sometimes sees things through like his own lens. So I don't know. We'll see if that makes sense later. But other than that, I don't know what's going on in the astrology. I don't know. It could be. Okay, so resistance. So interesting, resistance. Let's look at this card a little bit. These two rocks. It's interesting because there is, you know, there's like, you cannot pass up here, but underneath there's all this space. And what is this? Is that it almost looks like lava, it almost looks like lava, like almost like to me, I'm reading this as the breaking of the resistance, the moving of the resistance, because there is a way through, even though it looks like there's not, like this hot lava can go through the cracks and, like find its way through out to the other side. Yeah, it's pretty dark in here. I might need to turn a light on. I don't know if that would help me. Probably help me. Now I'm going to turn these lights on real quick. Hold on a second in front of me. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's better. Okay, I can see my cards more. All right. So the resistance moving. So I feel like we're going into a little bit more of detail about that. And so we get the King of Wands. Oh yeah. So the King of Wands. So that's really interesting because I was noticing the fire and the lava, what looks like lava and fire to me in this card. And the King of Wands, it's like he kind of has that energy of, the fire element, but also the leadership and the power. And it's like he has the power to move this. This is like our spirits. This is like the divine timing of now, where this integration and this holding and this healing is happening, on all the levels I was talking about, in terms of the clearing and the rebalancing, the reconfiguration and the platform. It's like, this is that wisdom. And that's also that balanced masculine that's like, okay, I'm on board. I hear the call. I hear the loud voice of the feminine within me and the feminine in the world. And I'm choosing to honor that. I'm choosing to follow my spirit. That's what the divine feminine is within us. It's our spirits. I'm choosing to follow that. And it's like that is what's moving. That's what's moving these blocks. When our inner masculine energy turns towards our intuition, turns towards those subtle voices instead of worrying about what other people are going to think or worrying about what, you're calcified in the structure and you think like, oh, well, if I don't play out this structure, then, bad things are going to happen or people are going to judge me or, whatever it is. And it's like, no, just be that, allow that divine feminine energy, divine masculine energy within us. It's raining to listen, to listen. And that's what's going to move these blocks. That's what's going to move the conditioning, because the conditioning is the distorted, conditioned energy within us that doesn't make a move, that doesn't listen to our intuition, that doesn't take action on that quiet whisper, because the voice of society or the hijack or the shoulds or the you're a bad girl or you're a bad boy or whatever it is keeps us in that trauma loop, right? So when we're allowing our divine masculine energy to come forward and to listen to that higher wisdom and to take action, it's when we can collapse. Really what the resistance, the resistance is the overlay of lack and limitation, the overlay of limitation, the thou shall not pass. You cannot pass into the fullness of your wholeness and the balance of your polarities and that God fractal that will create infinite possibilities in that heaven on earth timeline. Stay stuck behind this wall and be afraid of what others think and be afraid of losing something and be afraid of, dying or whatever it is. We were talking about that last time, just like being willing to let it all fall. And how do we do that? We allow that. We listen, we allow ourselves to take action on that spirit-inspired action, knowing that it's going to carry us the whole way through. And again, I'm glad that I brought up the way that I observed the energy working, in those sessions, because it taught me about how energy works in life, where after there's a clearing, there's a reconfiguration, there's a new platform, and then something new can come in. So you can guarantee that when you take action and you allow your spirit guided thing to move that which seems like an impasse, there's going to be a restructuring that's going to follow, that's going to create a new platform for you, a new point of attraction where this can come in, And it's just how energy works. So if you are somebody that's feeling, stuck and like you can't move, this is for you then. This is for you, to allow yourself to listen, to take action on those subtle whispers, because again, that is the God fractal. That's how we're building the heaven on earth, and it's how we're clearing that which, we want to fight and we want to complain. A lot of people want to fight and complain and, like argue if people don't see that, that's just playing that game of resistance, where you're on one side or the other and you're just down, playing the role of the hijack, what everybody wants you to do. And again, as we come closer to November and to the United States elections, and the polarities just going to be stronger, and just like don't fall for the trap, don't fall for the trap. Listen deeper and take action. Step out of that game, because that's the game we're trying to step out of. It's not about political leaders or who's more aligned, or that's just part of this. It's just part of the game. It's just part of the game. What we really want is to open to that infinite potential, and again, that happens within us when we can get those polarities in balance, and we can be in that state of wholeness and that God fractal where our parts are working together, and then our relationships will start to reflect that, what comes into our world because of the energy that we're transmitting into our holograms, into our lives, and then we become a God fractal, a light that matches up with the light of others. That's how we change the world. It's like just to step out of that polarity, to step out of that division. So that's interesting that that's coming up. I don't really feel like personally I'm in that divisiveness, but I guess it's important to be talking about right now because of where we're at in the timeline, and some of the agendas and some of the things that might be coming up. We might revisit some of those things. You're not doing it right and you're putting us in danger. I don't know. But again, that kind of that higher perspective to stay out of this energy, and doing so through aligning with our masculine energy that honors, that knows how to participate like this rather than like this. So we don't have to keep attracting in situations that help us dissolve that, come into that unity, the temperance. That's what these energies are doing for us right now. So just having that perspective, where we're at. We're 30 minutes. I might start closing up and just keep these a little shorter. Okay, so, the Hierophant. Oh, yeah. So, the Hierophant in the traditional tarot is kind of like the religion and the institution and the structure and, the conditioning, like that which you're supposed to do. Like, you better do what I say. And in a lot of my decks, I don't read it that way because it just comes through more like divine order or divine soul print. But in this deck, he really does come through that way. It's like, again, there's that resistance, right? Like, look at these keys and look at this. It's like, thou shall not pass. You cannot get through unless you play the game that we have assigned for you. The reality that we've defined as real, it's just like this little cap of control, So it's just kind of there it is, coming along, coming into the energy field, telling you who you should be and how you're wrong and, all that like bad girl, bad boy stuff, there it is, but the task, the higher octave of this card, how I read it in my other decks is that blueprint, that node point, that divine, like the scroll of your life, the commitment that you made, and the other ones, one of them, there's like a table and there are two rings and there's like a scroll where you're writing where, your higher self, you come down here and you're like, okay, I've chosen my characteristics, I've accumulated all the things from my parallel lives and my past lives, and here's my script and here's my Akash and here's everything I have to offer, and this is what I'm intending to do here, and then, playing out your personal drama, and not getting caught up in the guilt and gaslighting and shaming of other people, through our trauma, through hitting our trauma, where, we just automatically go unconscious and we start abandoning ourselves, we start abandoning our high priestess, the information that trickles through from, the higher octave of this with the scroll that was written that we can still hear, that we take action on, not allowing this hijack to trigger the trauma, especially when we're afraid or when there are things going on that scare us, it's like that's how we can get netted. We can get netted into this old game and we can stay in resistance and we can stay stuck. And it's like just really imperative, and maybe that's part of the message. Again, I didn't realize that was going to come through, but just kind of like, let's have a conversation about this, because maybe there's something that's about to happen that can kick people into fear or kick us into divisiveness or kick us into that old game. And damn, that's what they want. That's absolutely what, the opposite polarity that's in distortion wants. It wants things to stay like this so that it can trigger our trauma bonds and keep us spinning and keep us controlled, rather than coming into our own unity and our own wholeness and accessing this higher energy, which unfortunately for them, because they're so addicted to distortion and separation, they cannot reach this themselves. And so they want to keep us, in that bandwidth so that they can, control and siphon off of us and all that. And so, so again, just not falling for it, not falling for it. So let's see, I'll pull a couple more here and then I will probably close. All right. So, oh, interesting. The unexpected. That's interesting because I was saying maybe something's about to happen. I don't know if that's indicating and self-reflection. Yeah. Okay. So there she is looking in the mirror, and I love this card because there's so many different dimensions. It's like she's looking at herself in the mirror, but then there's this whole other aspect back here. You know, like the subconscious, the conscious part that you can see, and then the subconscious back here. So I feel like, based on what I was just saying, what this card is kind of indicating about, it's like we're conscious of ourselves to the degree that we are, but then when our fear gets triggered, it's like there's this whole other part that we're not aware of, you know, that we're not aware of. And so again, in talking about the way energy works with the clearing and then the rebalancing and then another level of clearing, it's like you can't see that deeper level of clearing until you clear this part and come to a stable you know, this stable level allows you to go through that clearing, that self-reflection. You know, it's like if you did it all at once, you'd you know, be the opposite of this, whatever, the opposite of this, you know, you just fragment, you know, you'd fragment into your, hold on, wrong way. You know, you'd fragment into your trauma and into your distortion, into separation again, you know. And so we go in levels and layers, you know, where we can handle, where we can integrate a bit. But again, seeing everything, even this, you know, even the unexpected things that get thrown at us, even if it's from, you know, the darker sort of demonic, satanic fractions that are, you know, it's one thing to play something out, you know, with just a neighbor or a community member or a husband or, you know, child or whatever, but to play it out with, you know, the real ones that really do mean harm, that really are awful, you know, and interfacing with that type of energy, you can feel it. You can feel the soullessness in it. You can feel the separation consciousness and just the extreme calcification of dark and addiction to dark. It doesn't feel good, you know. But even when you're dealing with something like that, if something like that does come in to our lives here soon, it's like remembering that it's still part of unraveling. It's still part of that self-reflection and seeing deeper and deeper levels of distortion within ourselves and bringing them back into wholeness. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what the wrench is that comes in and is thrown. It's still in service because it's still about clearing out another level so that we can reach an even more integrated, higher platform, you know, to receive and just just being able to flow through whatever it is, even if it's this kind of thing. So, all right, let me end on a goddess card here. Let's see what a final parting message, which may lead into more. But focus. Yeah, exactly. Focus. Yes, that is the summary. May we stay focused on the bigger picture, on what is actually happening within our energetic fields, within our bodies, the sequencing of how things move, and just keeping that higher perspective, staying focused on the big picture, regardless of what comes up, regardless of what's thrown at us, regardless of how much it might kick up, you know, self-hatred, or like, oh my God, I thought I was done with this pattern, or even like, oh my God, I thought we collectively were done with this pattern and now we're doing it again. It's like, no, it's about sovereignty. It's about, again, allowing that divine masculine energy within us to he's not leading, he's acting on the divine feminine. He's the divine feminine is leading, and he is that faithful servant. It's like the mind. Our mind is the faithful servant of our intuition. However you want to think of the polarities, masculine, feminine, left brain, right brain, you know, intuition, action, you know, it's like taking action on the information that we get from our own spirits and not from the program. No matter how much fear is kicked up, no matter how much of the traumas are kicked up, no matter how much of the subconscious is kicked up, remembering the name of the game and staying focused. So this is a card, a 4 card, and there it is again. That card, that number has been speaking to me, seeing if we have any other 4s here. Speaking to me, no, we don't. Speaking to me of the template, the structure, the table, you know, the platform for this to come in. So again, stay focused, and remember that the piece that we're missing right now, the piece that we're missing that seems to be decoding in this reading is about that rebalancing and is about that platform. We can see what's leaving, we can see what's coming, but that limbo space, that sort of like voidy space in between of like, wait, hold on. You know, it's almost like there's this whole other configuration going on in the background that we're not aware of. But again, I hope that's helpful to you to know that is what's going on, and that platform being built for this next thing. And again, each layer that peels off requires and facilitates another reconfiguration, another adjustment, and that adjustment is the part that feels weird. that's the part that feels like limbo, because it's all behind the scenes. It's just energetic. It's just rewiring. And yet we can sense it and feel it, and it can be weird. But just to understand that that's what's going on and to stay focused on that. So I hope that's helpful to some of you. It's actually quite helpful to me myself. So, if it's helpful to anybody else, that's great. But I'll just put this out here in case it is. And yeah, just thank you for everyone, for everything that you're doing. I know it's been really intense, but also really amazing. A lot of this kind of like holding type of energy coming in that we're feeling as well. Such a beautiful card. Oh, look, he's holding this. Oh, he's holding the sun and the moon. And in a lot of decks, the Temperance card does have a figure 8. So there's those polarities again coming into balance. It's so beautiful. And he has angel wings. He has angel wings. So there's that higher timeline again, all that's coming in, that infinite potential, and remembering to stay focused on this, on that which we are birthing and why we are here. We fell into deep conditioning and deep amnesia, but those of us that are, earth angels, starseeds, light workers, way showers, we do remember why we're here, and then the task is to remember when we're in the midst of, a clearing, when we're in the midst of a trigger, and so, anyway, okay, well, I will see you next time. Thank you for listening, and much love to you all. Thank you for all you do.